Hello, my name is Mahishaa. I'm a filmmaker based out of Bangalore. I'm here with my film Babasaheb in Bangalore, which is also produced as a part of Nilavana Media. I'm also the founder of Nilavana Media. Nilavana is a Ambedkarite collective production house based out of Bangalore. The idea was to create, basically tell our own stories with our own people. So that's what we have been doing. Nilavana, like we've been working on creating our own stories.
Can you tell us a bit more about Babasaheb in Bangalore and what made you want to make the film?
I see Babasaheb in Bangalore as a homage to the people who kept the Babasaheb imagery alive, especially in Bangalore. And also, there's this general question of the Babasaheb imagery. It's like, oh, is it just idol worship? Right? What does it mean to the people? So, um, for me, I wanted to give much more nuance, much more deeper understanding of what these statues mean to the community, my community, how it influences our daily life, how it kind of influences us to kind of look forward for its ideology and all that. So the film kind of I tried to explore that with this kind of a different approach of art form and all that.
So, if you could share a bit about the form and how you arrived at it, what led to like how you framed the narrative.
So actually, this project was done over like 4 years because the original footage of all the statues were filmed in 2022. So I was just like filming. I wanted to make a small video um, with Babasaheb imageries in Bangalore. But I had already made one video which is just 1 minute long. So that there was no context to it. It was just like imagery montage of Babasaheb statues in Bangalore, and then with the music which was made by MK Abhilash. The kind of montage kind of style came in because I was talking to Abhilash. He was doing the music. And then I was like, hey, how do we kind of work with that? And he was mentioning, hey, I do really like the kind of montage style. He uses a lot. Abhilash, who's my associate, he uses a lot in his work, and also it felt appropriate because there's so much imagery in Bangalore. You could not cover it one frame at a time, so it needs to be multiple frame and all that. So that's where that idea came in. And then last year I wanted to explore that with more context to the. I was developing it as a visual like art piece, like a video installation. Um, so when I was developing for that, I was like, oh, how do we add more context because it was supposed to be premiere in Germany, and then like I thought like I had a couple of more artists who I know from the community with the collective who have been working, students and all who I've engaged with, and they have their own stories to tell. And I thought a couple of the stories need to come in. So I felt like this is when the project took the final form. Like maybe it's like evolving as well. I'm not sure. Right at this point, it just feels like the more final form, where like there is much more context to how the statues are influencing actual people.
And I wanted to also go to the use of text, which I thought was very exciting because it's also you're treating text as image. But at the same time, it's also because it's translation. It's also doing something else because the voice is doing something and the text is doing something, but they're working together. So it's occupying a significant space on the screen. Could you share a bit about how you decide to use that approach to text as image?
So I definitely I knew I didn't want to kind of have traditional subtitles for the translation. It's basically interviews, right? It's basically headshot interviews, and I didn't want to use a traditional style subtitles. And the form of the collage kind of thing was already there. So I was like trying to work on how kind of I use the text to kind of work with the kind of collage because it's already the image is very busy, not just purely technical level, right? The image is very busy. How do you make subtitle stand out, like or text stand out? That's where the it came in. So while working on it and multiple times, I did a rough text effect with like basic editing, and then my animator, whose name is Srihash, he kind of took it forward and added much more texture to it. And yeah, we worked on it for a while. So it kind of collaborative. We brought it together.
Could you talk a bit about why you decided to be in the film in front of the camera as well?
I hate being in front of the camera. I hate filming myself. That's even worse. So like that was a bit of challenge to me, but at the same time, I felt like because I had screened the previous version multiple times, I think I felt like there is a need for me to be here to explain what I'm going for, and what it means to me personally as well, right? Because and it is coming from slightly self-critical point of view as well, because I speak about being a Dalit person, the imagery wasn't alive in my house. right? Being my father was the first generation, I'm the second generation, right? So um, for me, it is coming from a slightly self-critical way of people who had slight upward mobility have kind of abandoned the image of Babasaheb to kind of get more, you know, to assimilate with the culture. But people who are actually working class, people who are actually, you know, earning daily wage and all that, they're kind of putting their own money. Again, these are not state commission statues. These are built by the community themselves. They're putting their own money. They're pulling in the money to have this imagery alive. And for me, um, to do what I'm doing with Neelavana over the last even before that, speaking publicly, being openly an Ambedkarite, speaking publicly about caste would not be possible without these people keeping the imagery alive. And I want to honor the people who kind of have kept it alive. Because if that hadn't had happened, again, the there would be question about how we take forward Ambedkar legacy in the context of Bangalore. Yeah, so that's one thing. And while filming it, I heard some amazing stories as well from people. There was one story where there was a Babasaheb statue, and there is a name placard, right, and it was empty. And I was filming it, and one kid who had a stall there, like a younger person, and he came to me and he's like, "Oh, what are you filming?" He was a bit curious, and I said, "Hey, I'm making a video about Babasaheb." And he got very excited, and he's like, "Hey, actually, my father is the one who installed the statue, but one of the reason why there is no plaque is because." They kind of pulled in the money and got together. His father kind of organized the whole thing, and then got the statue done. But the local corporate MLA, they wanted his name to be there, even though he had no contribution to it. So his father was like, I would not have anyone's name because the statue is important for me, not even my name. So I'll leave it blank. So it's been blank for like 2 to 3 years. I visited it again. And I think that's one of the most badass things somebody has done, right? So I wanted these kind of story to come on board, but they were not comfortable coming on camera as well. So I visited after 2 years. I went there again. I spoke to them and all that. They were very nice people. They spoke to me, but they didn't want to come in front of camera. So, but I know that kind of story. There's multiple stories I've heard. Something like that was very interesting for me. When you walk around Bangalore, you see a lot of Ambedkar imagery like that. I've only grown up in Bangalore. So now coming to visiting other cities, I'm surprised at how little Babasaheb imagery is there. I haven't visited Mumbai and other places yet, so I'm assuming there'll be more. But there's a lot of small stalls, tea stalls, everywhere. You'll see. I think you'll see a Babasaheb imagery every 5-10 minutes for sure to keep your eye open. Um, for me, one of the initiation for this project was in Indranagar 80 feet road, which is called the pub area. Like the whole road is filled with pubs, right? And it's most elite, very expensive space. In that one single road, you'll see 2 to 3 statues of Babasaheb and multiple imageries posters, placards, and all that with Babasaheb. And that contradiction was quite interesting to me. It was like where this is very elite Savarna space, as it's known, but at the same time there are people kind of putting their imagery, their assertion upfront. So, but we never kind of speak about this side whenever we speak about Indranagar, right? And if you kind of exit the main roads, the just outside, there are a lot of Dalit colonies. Inside, there's much more interesting statues and all that. A lot of statues are from Indranagar as well here. For me, I wanted to bring in that kind of a contradiction as well. That was the initiation of idea, but again, I started exploring more and went a bit different direction. But yeah, that was very fascinating for me. How even claimed as a very elite space, people are putting their imagery to kind of assert themselves. And even for us, whenever whenever any elite person kind of goes to any spaces, right? And there is whenever you see a Babasaheb statue, there is a kind of comforting kind of nature to it, right? And after making the film, a lot of people have come to me and said, "Hey, whenever I'm actually looking up when I'm going in the bus, there is whenever I see Babasaheb, oh, this was in that video," and all. They're trying to kind of map city through that. As Bharat speaks in the film, how it is a form of kind of a friendship relationship we have every day seeing Babasaheb statue, and a lot of people have this kind of very personal connection to the imageries, and I think that's very important to kind of have, especially cities can be a bit harsh sometimes. So I think that kind of brings in a bit of comfort.
So I want to return to the question of the collective. What do you think is the role of DBA film collectivities in the present?
More than a role, I think it's very necessary at this point. Especially in Bangalore. For me, it started from a very personal, you can say, selfish space where like I was trying around I've been trying to work in films, especially traditional films, Kannada industry and all. There I'm like trying to see what are the other progressive people I can collaborate with, right? And there is very few people, and I've heard horror stories of how people are treated and all that. For me, especially as a younger person, like few years ago, it was very concerning to me, like where do I go? Especially I am very open about my caste identity, I'm very open about my ideology, right? I do not like to hide myself. And it will be for me a very uncomfortable space where I can not be myself while creating, right? So it's a choice between not being myself and trying to hide my identity, or like kind of being open about it and kind of not have the kind of a um, career progress, right? You have to be okay with that because that's how the industry is. So for me, it's like, hey, like we do need like I need a space where I can be myself, right? And even if maybe 10 years down the line, someone younger person from the community should not feel the way where like, hey, where do I go? Because I do want to create in Bangalore, Karnataka, in Kannada. That's been a focus. We want to create in Kannada, in the language we understand, where I can show to my mom, my cousins, my this thing, right? My own people who do not maybe know Tamil, Hindi, or English. So that's where it came from. And thankfully, over the last 3 years, we have built a whole team who kind of align with the ideology, who want to kind of work with us and kind of create stuff together. So I've been very happy about that.
Yeah, and would you like to share some of the projects you're working on, or what your imagination for the collective is in the future?
So the idea of collective has kind of changed over time, because like even when I started it, I did not know we can use a word called collective for this, right? The process has been figuring out as we go. We are just like, we're like four people. Let us do something like that, and everyone is like, yeah, we'll do. But again, that's how it goes. I just went ahead and started a YouTube channel, and for me, that's okay. If you have official email address, that's we have a film, right? So we have something. I didn't even know it was a collective then. And then I started engaging with the local art scene in the city, and then I started using a vocabulary which would work for our collective, and gone from collective to production house, cultural production house. I think we're still in the making of what it is, right? We're kind of uh, I feel like we have taken an approach about, rather than trying to say, hey, this collective has done this and we're going to copy paste it here, rather than, because it's such a unique this thing, right? And it's an idea of representation, idea of who gets to tell stories, and what is the level of collaboration a person can have. And again, there is this identity politics is going on, and that is complex things to figure out, right? And we have been kind of working backwards, saying that, hey, what do you want to do, and then based on that we're kind of building it. Over the last years, we have done multiple things. We have done workshops. Currently, we're doing a writing workshop for Dalit women, script writing workshop, and then we are working on musical projects and all that. Yeah. So, and also, our goal is to kind of train even younger people, especially a lot of college students who might not have the exposure, or they want to tell a certain kind of stories, but again, they're also a bit concerned about like coming across, like especially with the identity and all that, right? So we kind of uh, give support within our capacity, right? In terms of helping them write grants, or even to understand how grant process works, or helping them with technicalities, and helping them find a mentor within the community who can mentor them with the skill they want to kind of approach. And that's something we have been working on over the last 3 years.
So, if you could tell us a bit about how idea collaboration works within a collective like yours.
So, within like we have my associate who's MK Abhilash. He's very much into experimentalism. His style is completely opposite than mine, right? But at the same time, working together, we have been borrowing each other's styles, and we have been evolving together. And my editor, who's chief like a post production person, Strungar, and there's another art director called Sudarshan, who designs the logo and everything which comes to it. So these are the four primary crew people we work together. Apart from that, there are other 10-15 people who consistently keep working with us. And because we are not funded projects, and then we are not we're just self-funding, also feels very not the right word, because like we're funding through our own what are the labor, basically. Abhilash works on my film, I go shoot his film, and we kind of using that kind of system to kind of keep ourselves sustained, right? So that has been very interesting process to figure out, because when you're not compensating financially, we are compensating but not financially, how does that work, and how do we kind of uh, it's been interesting to see how we have been kind of able to create with collaboration, right, where we understand where the person is coming from and kind of give their space for their idea as well. So that has been a interesting process, like to see over the last 3 years.
You screened your film yesterday. What was the reception like within that space?
Yeah, so we had a screening at SRFTI last night, and it was quite good. It was organized by the Blue Banyan Collective, which is a Ambedkarite collective in the um, campus. So it was quite interesting. A lot of people were already familiar with our work. They have already screened our film for the previous Ambedkar Jayanti and other festivals. So they were we mostly discuss about process of making it. A lot of times, for us, it's not just the final product which comes in, it's how it was made and who it was made by and how did we arrange the crew, how did we have collaboration and all that. So I think that's something we focused on, and they were very curious about how these projects work. And for a lot of people, this is the first Kannada project they're also seeing, and that was interesting. So yeah, and then once we finished, actually they actually took me to the statue right outside the campus, which they installed themselves, which was crowdfunded, very similar in spirit, you can say. And they showed me and the statue was made by one of the students apparently. It was quite nice to see. Like kind of like what we're speaking about, like the working class Bahujan kind of approach with, again, working campus and all that. That was quite cool to see.
In your other work, you've also dealt with the city and relationship to the city. So would you like to share a bit about what your other work is and how the city takes on a different life in those?
As someone who's grown up in Bangalore, I'm mostly interested in studying Bangalore stories right now, at least. So all of my projects has been about the city of Bangalore, and especially the kind of city which I grew up in, but I don't see represented in Kannada cinema. So my first like previous project called Area Boys is set in not just in Bangalore, it's set in Matikere, Yashwanthpura, which is like a subsection slightly kind of outside Bangalore, right? And then there is very specific. When I screened in SRFTI, one person was like, hey, it was very interesting to see J Park and reference to this place and all that. So to come all the way to Kolkata and someone who's like relating with a micro city, and then hey, that's why I found that joke funny and all that. That was quite interesting. Another film, I grew up in Matikere, the thing, and then I moved to Sultanpalli. I stayed there for 7 years, and then another film is set in Sultanpalli. And this contradiction of set in a Muslim-dominated area, and these are the three boys who are trying to keep Ganesh in the street. That is it's a buddy comedy, coming of age film, but it's set place in this kind of a cultural space, right? That was interesting for me to explore. Especially because whenever we see Kannada, whenever we see Kannada films and all, one is like, especially when you see a lot of friend group, it's all like Kannadigas, right? Which is very rare in Bangalore, like a metropolitan city like in Bangalore. There's like always one Tamilian, there's one Dakhini speaking person, there's Teluguite, there's Mallus and all that, right? And that's what a friend group is. What's what genuine friend group is, and we're all having fun and watching engaging each other's media, pop culture, and all that, right? But for some reason, I felt like that part about the relationship, and even when we see Bangalore, it's always been kind of the elite Bangalore, which is like Indiranagar, Kormangala, MG Road, and then or it's more of a Brahminical Bangalore, which is like Malleshwaram, Basangudi, and all that, right? So there is only those two sides. But again, even though I grew up in Bangalore, these two spaces are very alien to me. That's like I started exploring very later on in my life, right? So we're not seeing the kind of majority of Bangalore which 80% of Bangaloreans have experience of, right? So that's something that where all of these things come in. I think they've taken in different forms. One in a very accessible mainstream buddy comedy kind of genre, and another much more experimental documentary about Babasaheb statues and exploring the anthropology of those and all that. And I am working on a few more documentary about the city of Bangalore, and also kind of for me, I'm thinking about like putting myself in more in the film, even though how much ever I hated. That's why I've been kind of putting it off. But I'm more exploring my relationship with the city of Bangalore, how it's working, and then how the city has changed over time. So city has been major topic in generally.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.